I've done it, I'm here on top of K2. This is great.
Finally made it. The top of Lotsey about 3 in the afternoon.
Mountaineering and climbing is my passion and way of life. I'm a professional mountaineer. Climbing, however, does have its dangers. But I don't climb to die, I climb to live. Since I started Challenge 8000, my attempt to climb all 14 8000ers, I've had some close shaves. I summited my first 8,000 metre peak in the Himalaya in 1987. And over the past decade, I've climbed 9 of these giant peaks. And by the autumn of 97, I had only 5 more to go. K2 in Pakistan is the world's second highest mountain and perhaps the hardest. Perhaps it was my hardest too. It took me 3 attempts over 3 years to bag it. The view from the summit was unbelievable. A huge shadow was cast by the massive bulk of K2 in the setting sun. If you look right a bit, you can see the Gasherbums 1 and 2 that I climbed in 96, and closer to the camera is Broad Peak that I climbed in 91. It is so high up you can see the curvature of the earth, and in the rarefied air I could see Nanga Parbat on the horizon over 100 miles away. Dubbed the Killer Mountain. The first time I attempted Nanga Parbat, I was nearly killed in a rock avalanche, and my attempt was abandoned when I helped rescue an injured climber. Then, in the summer of 97, in the midst of a hectic period of climbing, a bizarre incident occurred. I sneezed as I was eating a chapati, and I slipped a disc.
How many days already?
Really only yesterday. Bad, yeah.
Только вчера началось.
Although I had a little problem in Islamabad when I left, maybe 1 week ago.
I believe you're just having bad muscle spasm, yeah.
I let myself get run down. I'd lost a lot of body weight and a lot of muscle strength had gone, and I had strained the muscle, and the sneeze was the final straw that caused me to prolapse the disc. Eventually, a heli came in, which was a bit of a long story how it couldn't come in, so I was stuck there for about 10 days, I think it was, and eventually as the disc settled down a bit, I managed to stagger down a couple of thousand feet, which allowed the helicopter to get in more easily and find me.
All right, quite comfortable?
Yeah, it certainly gives it a twist, that, doesn't it? It's far more comfortable than it was the first time I did this.
Right.
You know, I could actually feel it.
Okay. What I'm going to do is just put my hand through here.
When I came back to Britain, I went to the Sports Injury Clinic in the East End of Newcastle upon Tyne and got quite a lot of good physio there and sort of exercises I could do myself as well. But at the end of the day, it is a matter of getting the right sort of exercise initially, but it is a matter of keeping fit. Yeah, that does stretch it more than anything, that, to me. It's sort of in that position a lot when you're doing the breaststroke. Then I started rock climbing again, and that was fantastic what rock climbing did. And most people that have a bad back get signed off work for weeks on end, if not years, and they say they have to just lie around. Well, I think perhaps they should prescribe rock climbing for everybody who's got a bad back. Early in 1998, my back had recovered enough and I set off on my third attempt on the Killer Mountain.
Well, all I can say is that cycling hurts. In this heat, it certainly should be getting me fit for Nanga Parbat.
The main thing was to try and make sure my mind was right as well, concentrating on wanting to do Nanga Parbat. You have to really want to do these 8,000s, as you're not going to get up them. So there is a lot of pain and misery involved in them. It's relatively simple to get to Nanga Parbat. It's probably the simplest of the 8,000ers to get to. You go up the KKH, which is the Karakoram Highway, this dangerous, dramatic road that's cut through Pakistan towards China, heads up north. And you're on that for a couple of days. The Indus River is never very far away, but it can be a hairy 1,000 feet vertical drop below you. Drivers who go to sleep at the wheel do so at their peril. Even the short trek to Nanga Parbat base camp has its dangers. There is a rockfall danger, particularly early on, with the loose mountainsides and hillsides. You hire porters who usually use mules to carry your loads in, which only takes about 4 days up this valley, up the Daimia Valley, to the base camp. There's roaring, raging streams that if you try and wade across them, you could get swept away to your death. There are rickety bridges across them, but they keep getting swept away as well. There's some really exposed paths that have been cut out of the rock face as well. They've been blasted out of the rock face with gelignite, so if you slip on them, you're liable to go 1,000 foot down this sheer cliff face. So even the paths are dramatic and dangerous. When I saw Nanga Parbat again, I thought, great, well, here we are. I'd better get myself focused on it. And I sort of saw it as a benign object that I had to climb, or I was trying to think of it as a friendly mountain rather than an unfriendly mountain, although it is known as the Killer Mountain. Particularly in the pre-war years, in the 30s, a lot of people were killed trying it. Before it was about 40 killed, I think, before it was ever climbed. As I arrived in base camp, it was pretty scary and impressive. There's a huge sort of rocky mountain above base camp with patches of snow on early in the season, and some rocks broke loose high above base camp, started crashing down. I thought, these are going to wipe out base camp. We're going to get engulfed in a rock avalanche. And some of the rocks, these huge boulders anyway, did stop like 2 foot from a Korean's tent.
There was a man in that tent.
At base camp there were several expeditions. There was Colombian, Japanese, Korean and Italian, I think. And there was also an Australian there, Andrew Locke, who I was sharing the base camp with to make it a little bit cheaper. He was sharing the cook, so we just had one cook between us, which is pretty good, because sometimes you might have an expedition of, say, 10 members at base camp sharing a cook. So obviously you don't get looked after as well then, but we had one cook between 2 of us, which was pretty good. When I arrived in base camp after the trek in, I felt okay really. I was still fit enough. My back felt okay. I was sort of raring to go. But you can see how pretty dangerous this spot is with all this rockfall that comes herring down from up there. This is what it's like in the heat of the day. You're sinking in. You can see how that rock's slid off. Well, that's tested my back out a bit. This is the first time at Camp 1. Don't know if we'll use it as Camp 1, it's pretty dangerous. Andrew's just digging a little patch out there behind me so we can dump our kit on it. Doubt we'll sleep there because there's huge blocks around there that have come round from avalanches higher up. The only safe spot, which is where I'm standing, has been nabbed by some Koreans who were here first. Well, I have been avalanched a couple of times but got away with it, which is pretty lucky because you don't usually get away with avalanches. The white stuff, snow, isn't the soft, fluffy stuff that people think it is. It comes down like wet concrete usually, and it has huge blocks in it, sometimes the size of motor cars, you know, that are huge chunks of ice like concrete. So it just kills you. Well, the plan is to go back to base, and both Andrew and I have the same sort of idea really, that we'll probably come up here again, dump another load, and then we may go and acclimatise on another mountain. Another avalanche in the background. Let's hop into that. Possible to arrive at base camp on one of these big mountains and just set off for the summit. You have to acclimatise, and that means going up to a certain altitude on the mountain and then back to base camp to rest, and then an even higher altitude and back to base camp and rest, and all that can take at least 3 weeks. The first real obstacle to climbing Nanga Parbat is the Kinsoffer Gully, followed by the Kinsoffer Wall. Here there is serious danger from rockfall.
See how dangerous it is. All this rock here is raking off.
I do realise it is part of what's going to happen on mountains like Nanga Parbat. Rockfall is a real danger, and it's like climbing a vertical battlefield at times with incoming mortar. I did have a couple of rocks in Nanga Parbat just dunk into the snow sort of 9 inches away from me, and I knew if one of those had just hit me, I'd have had it. Well, I've got the last bit up to Camp 2 to do, the Kinsoffer Wall, which is just behind me there. There's lots of bits of old fixed rope left there as well, and bits of old aluminium caving ladders, but none of them are safe to use. They've been cut by falling rocks, they've been degraded by the UV in the sunlight, so it's all a pretty gnarly place really. Normally you'd climb rock like that down at sea level in rock slippers and shorts and t-shirt, you know, in the summer, and here you're climbing it in big boots, big plastic boots with crampons on and a rucksack probably weighing about 20 kilos, so it's pretty sort of, well, it knocks you out, it takes a lot of energy out of you. Well, this is where we got to live, on this little ledge. That's where most of the people have managed to get a campsite. You can see down to base there. Going for a brew here, some melting snow to make some tea. In fact, it's boiling away there. I better put another couple of chunks in. Several days later, I made another climb up to Camp 2 and then pressed on up towards Camp 3 to get used to the altitude and the thin air. It's not very easy to push yourself on in the rarefied air. It does hurt, and you can only go very slowly. And if you try and go at the speed you would walk at or climb at down at sea level, then you're just going to collapse. So you have got to be prepared to move at a slower speed to conserve your energy and utilise the little amount of oxygen you're getting. Pushing on up to Camp 3, which is, who knows, probably about 6,500 metres or even more. It's, although the air temperature's well below freezing, it can feel hot at times when you get moving in this sun. Sun saps your energy. I'm being followed down here by the two from the Colombian team. And there's the way on. It looks pretty dangerous across that bowl, avalanche prone. I'd got caught in a storm that afternoon and didn't get to the site of the top camp until about 5 o'clock at night. And so originally I'd intended to set off at midnight, but because it took so long to get sorted out and get rehydrated and rested, didn't manage to set off on the summit day till around about 3ish in the morning, I think. Well, this is the early morning start, but I don't think this battery's going to last. It's pretty cold. There's the summit behind me. It's the exposure, I suppose, to danger you're putting yourself in on an 8,000 that makes it a challenge. It's maybe heightened by the fact that you know you're just totally out there. You know it's several days back to civilization. Well, trying to get to the summit, but it's about midday, so it's a bit late. The weather's changing as it does about midday. It's pretty hot, and fair way to go yet too. Well, this is a couple of hours away from the summit. Maybe. I've been going about 12 hours already. So I'm just about to go to the top. Inshallah. A few more minutes. A few more minutes to the top. There's the final steps. Finally made it to the top of Nanga Parbat.
Yeah.
Got my usual flag here, which is the picture of Fiona. It's pretty late though, so I think we're going to be going down in the dark. It is a bit of a relief to get there, because you know you can set off back down now. You know it's sort of a third over then. I won't hesitate to say half over. But the view is stupendous. I mean, you feel as though you're on top of the world. It does feel a lot higher than when you're on Scarfell or Helvellyn or whatever. It feels like an achievement, but you have to temper that achievement with knowing full well you haven't done it. You have got to get back down. Well, you can see it's nearly dark now. There's base camp down there in the valley. There's the sunset. Well, I've set off down the descent route. It's nearly dark, as you can see. So I'll be putting my head torch on soon. For the next 5 hours, I descended alone down the steep slope from the summit towards the refuge of my tent at the top camp. This meant losing 1,000 metres of altitude from the summit.
And down there, who knows how deep that is?
The next morning, after a short rest, and not really any sleep, it felt great to be alive as I looked back over the dangerous route I'd taken in the black of the previous night. When I was in the top camp, I knew it wasn't all over, because the slopes below that top camp to get down were still pretty loaded and avalanche prone. And I'm pretty wiped out after virtually a 24-hour push, and you don't really sleep at those altitudes anyway to recover, so it's a matter of forcing myself on, and I'm dehydrated, I'm suffering from the acute effects of extreme altitude. It's just a matter of pulling myself together and struggling on down lower, really, but knowing that I'm getting closer and closer to safety. And this year on Nanga Parbat there were 7 of us summited from different countries, and that was it, basically. That's it for the rest of the year. Sadly, one climber, a Japanese, was killed in rockfall in the couloir. And there, but for the grace of God, I think, those rocks could have wiped me out. Perhaps I do know when it's safe to push the boat out and go for a summit. Perhaps I have an inner voice, a seventh sense. Perhaps I've been lucky as well. When my daughter Fiona joined me for a holiday in Pakistan after I'd climbed the Killer Mountain, I could reflect on what I'd just done. To look down on the summit from not far above, it was quite salutary to think I'd climb it and never have to go there again. If I go back to Pakistan, which I hope I do, and see Nanga Parbat, I know I can feel that I've climbed that spot on the planet not many people have.
He's mad. No, he's crazy. It's risky, but he wants to do it, so it's his choice.
Hello.
I get worried sometimes. Like if you hear things on the news, there's been avalanches, and if my dad's on that mountain, then yeah. But otherwise, I know hopefully that he's not going to be too risky, and he'll take care of himself, and he always comes back, and he has so far.